We are in Autodesk Inventor 13, and you've previously looked at the PowerPoint that went through the basics of the program, and now I'm going to walk you through your first project, which is called the Name Project. So what we're going to do here, you'll notice that the screen looks a little bit different than yours did when it started. This is, I simply closed that welcome screen. You can get back to it by clicking here on the welcome, and you can see that this is the screen that pops up when you first start the program. We want to make sure, and I'm going to close this. I don't like working from this. You're certainly welcome to look at your projects and your new files here. I'm going to work off of the ribbon. And I'm going to first go to projects because we want to make sure that the name project that we created, the project folder we created earlier, is checked. If it wasn't checked, let's say that soccer field here was checked, what would happen is when I would make my name file and I went to save it, it would save it in the soccer field project folder. That's not good. You want all of your files for a particular project to be in one project folder. So I'm going to make sure that name is selected, and I'm going to say done. Now I'm going to do a new file, and you remember that the file type we're using is a standard.ipt. So we're going to go ahead and select that, and it happens to be in inches. Later on in the year we'll use metric system, but right now we're using inches. Now, you should recognize this because this is the screen that we had you develop and change so that it was white. It had grid lines. You can see that there's a sketch pattern. Over here, this is called the browser bar. And we can see that our sketch is, that these are kind of dimmed out, these other items, and sketch is highlighted, and we're in the sketch mode. Now, I want to talk about the mouse because the mouse is very important for navigating. It's mentioned in the PowerPoint, but I want to go ahead and give you some examples here. So, for example, let's do the zoom. So I'm holding my mouse and I'm going to use the wheel, and if I push the wheel away from me, you can see that I zoom out. And I zoom out toward where the cursor is. If I pull the wheel toward me, I'm zooming in to where the cursor is. You see that? I'm zooming in. Zoom out. Now if I hold down the scroll wheel, you can see that the cursor changes to a little hand. And then I drag the mouse. Now I'm panning. Notice if I had a part on here, the part would not be moving. It would look like it's moving, but its position relative to the origin, which is right here, its position relative to that would remain the same. I would simply be able to move around the part. Now, you're going to use a combination of panning and scrolling to move around your parts. The more you do, the more you work with Autodesk Inventor, the easier the navigation tools become. Over here, we can see that we talked about these. There's also a pan tool. You can just click on that and then go ahead and just use your left mouse button. This is Zoom All, which takes you back to a central view. So if I zoom way out into space, and then I press Zoom All, it comes right back to the beginning. This is a rotate tool. The rotate tool, we can change the orientation of the part in 3 dimensions. Okay. Now you'll notice that now I'm all skewed and crooked. If I come back over here, we didn't talk about this cube up here, but this cube is going to allow me to return to whatever view that I want. And we can see that by clicking on the front view, it came to the front, but it was sideways. So I'm going to click on this little arrow here and return to my straight up and down front view. We'll learn more about that later. Right click, OK, and that gets me out of that rotate tool. When you right click, it gives you all kinds of options and menus. So if you're ever stuck somewhere, just right click and you can see that there are some pretty intuitive commands here that you can use. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to draw, and we're going to be drawing our name. Now, it doesn't really matter right now how big we're making things. It will later. Right now it doesn't. And it doesn't matter if you're all the way zoomed in or you're zoomed out so you can see the grid. It doesn't really matter to me. I like to have the grid there to help me to see what's up and down, and that kind of helps sometimes. We're going to draw our last name. Okay, I'm going to draw the word fish because my last name's Fisher. I'm going to draw fish. Now, it's very simple. We're going to start by doing a very simple block. So I'm just going to use the line tool. And when I select the line tool, I'm simply going to click where I want to begin, drag my mouse to where I want to stop, click again. Now, if I don't want to start my line here, I can right click and say OK, and it will get rid of the line tool and allow me to start over. Also, when I want to, we have to make these letters, and anytime you do a sketch that you're going to make into 3 dimensions later, the area that you make has to be enclosed. We have to have a completely enclosed area without any gaps. So I went back to the line tool, and I'm putting my cursor at the very top of this line until it turns green. Do you see that? And I'm going to click it, left click, it starts the line, and I'm going to make the top of my F. And I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to go ahead and just start drawing this F from the top. Okay, and I'm not being very stylish. I encourage you to be stylish. You'll notice as I draw that it shows me the angle that I'm at with relation to some line, the length of the line, and also it tells me critical things like when I'm lined up with certain points. Do you see that? It'll tell me that I'm lined up. When I'm parallel, when I'm perpendicular. Let's see if I can get perpendicular here. It's not right there, perpendicular, 90 degrees. Okay? So it will tell me all those things that I need to know to help me draw my part. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. And now I'm going to close it off. Make sure it's green. Click it. And because it's a closed area, you'll notice it starts the line over again. I'm still in line tool, so I'm good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and make my I. I'm not being very stylish here. I'll make my S. Now, to make an S, I'm not going to use the line tool. I'm going to use what's called the spline tool, and this is a fun tool. If you come over here on your ribbon, you'll see the word spline. Now, the spline, watch how it works. When I click it, it starts, and it looks like a regular line. But as I click it again, it's going to wrap around the point that I just clicked. And I'm going to go ahead and click a couple more times, and I can make this S that I want to make. Look at that. Bam. Now I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click on the check mark, and it's going to make that spline for me. I'm going to go again, make another spline, and kind of wrap around this way, clicking as I go, so I can wrap around it, and I'm going to close it off. Now, right click. Actually, I'm going to click on, I don't want to right click, I want to click on this check mark. Now, the S is too big, right? You see how it's too bigger than the rest of it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition it. I made it bigger. I'm going to reposition it here. I can grab these nodes, and I can make this a little bit smaller. You see that? I'm going to bring this in. Now, depending on how many nodes I have, that's going to determine how much smaller I can make it. And really, I'm not doing a very good job here. Here we go. There we go. So there's my S. It's still a little bit bigger than I want it to be. But let me just go ahead and work here for a second. And I encourage you to work with your letters to get them to be really nice and stylish. Okay, now, you'll notice how I'm moving around, right? I'm zooming. I'm panning. Okay, because I'm getting around my drawing. I want to see this whole thing. Okay, now, I'll go back to my line tool. I'm going to go ahead and make my H. Actually, I should have a C in there, but because my name is Fischer, but whatever. This is good enough for now. And I'm just making a little H here. Again, I'm not being very stylish. It's downright ugly if you ask me. Okay, now I'm done with my sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Finish 2D Sketch. You can also come up here to where it says Finish Sketch. I'm used to right-clicking and selecting Finish 2D Sketch. Now watch closely what happens. Look at that. Everything changed. It automatically turned into an isometric view. It gave me a different toolbar up here. Actually, there's my sketch, but nothing is highlighted, and the ribbon changed. You'll notice now the ribbon went from sketch to 3D model. Okay? All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to end right here and start a new one. I don't know. Sometimes if I make these little videos too long, it glitches up. So I'm going to end this particular demonstration, and then we're going to make another one that shows you. I'll pick up right from the spot, and I'll tell you how to make this three-dimensional.